welcome back to Dixie Belle's YouTube channel. I'm Lauren and welcome back to FFT Friday. Let's go ahead and get started. I got this dresser here that we're gonna flip today, and the first step is going to be to remove the hardware. I always start off with removing the hardware because actually underneath the hardware there is going to be lots of dirt and dust that has gathered there over time. So I remove the hardware even before I clean. A lot of the times you can tell how old a piece is by the hardware. This one in particular doesn't have any metal pieces in the inside, and it's screwed in with one of these thicker screws. So that kind of tells me that this is a pretty old dresser. I don't necessarily know if it's antique, but it's definitely before they started putting little places where the screws can nicely screw into. Instead, these just screw right into the wood. I'm going to be saving the hardware in my container. That way I can possibly reuse it. I just haven't decided yet. And then I'll also remove the drawers as I am going. Got some stickers in here. We'll hopefully be able to get those out a little bit later. And then someone also so graciously already numbered the drawers, so I can skip that step and I'll still know where the drawers belong. All right, hardware's off, drawers are out, and it's time to clean. For cleaning, I am gonna be using Dixie Belle's White Lightning Cleaner. It's also important to go ahead and clean the inside of the drawers as well. Next, I will spray down the dresser itself because that also needs to be cleaned off. For this particular dresser, I saw a lot of cobwebs underneath, so I'm gonna go ahead and lay it on its back real quick and also clean under there. Now it's time to rinse everything off. Cleaning is all finished up, so we're gonna let this dry and then we will move on to our next step, which is sanding. These are all dried off now, and so I'm just gonna put my dust mask on here, and then I've got a 220 grit because all we're really doing is doing a scuff sand, so that's to kind of get the glossiness off, and then also just to smooth out any imperfections. This specific dresser doesn't really have many nicks, so I'm not really gonna try to break through the finish, and then that'll also help me escape the bleed through. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the drawers first, and then I'll hop up into the dresser. That was pretty quick, and now I'm gonna wipe back all the dust with my microfiber cloth. We don't want any of that dust left behind, and we just want it to be a nice clean surface. Looks like we are all done with sanding and taking the dust off, so our next step, time for paint. I decided to go with a color that I've never done before, and that color is called French Linen. So I'm gonna be painting with this for the first time. It's kind of a beige gray. It's a very subtle neutral color, and so I'm just gonna mix it up a little bit and then we'll get to painting. Let's get started. It's always good to just go in one direction, back and forth or up and down as you're painting, just so that you can completely minimize brush strokes, or if there are some left over, that it's just seamless and they're all going the same direction. All right, first coat is on officially. So we're gonna just let that dry for a little while, and then of course, we'll be back for coat number 2. In between coats of paint, it's always a great idea to store your brush inside of a plastic baggie. That way you don't have to clean it out, but yet it also doesn't dry out. This paint has awesome coverage, so I'm only gonna need to do a total of 2 coats with the French linen. I'm back and ready for coat number 2, but as always, between coats, it's important to smooth out any of the brush stroke marks and just any raised paint. So I've got my rad pad and I'm doing the red one, the very fine rad pad, to smooth anything out. All right, it looks like second coat is all finished up. So I'm gonna let that dry for just a little while, and then we'll be able to come back and do a top coat. And also, I just stopped by Hobby Lobby and I decided to get some new hardware just because I wasn't completely sold on the wooden hardware that came originally with this piece. And I think you guys are gonna like the pieces that I chose for the hardware. I'm thinking that I'm gonna start stepping a little bit outside the box and invest in a little bit nicer of hardware. So I'm gonna show you that here in just a little bit. Our last step before we assemble the dresser is going to be to put the top coat on. When you're putting the top coat on, especially over neutral colors like white, beige, tan, things like that, it is a little bit more difficult to see where your top coat is. And so one thing that I like to do is kind of get at an angle and kind of just see across the surface. If there's any spots that aren't shiny or wet, then I'll make sure to go over those before everything else dries. Done with the top coat, so we're gonna let that dry just a little while before we get to assemble the dresser. In the meantime, I'm gonna go clean out my brush and we'll come back and we'll put the hardware on. We're ready for some butter, Big Mama's butter. And I'm gonna be using the Orange Grove, and this is going to help the drawers slide nicely. So as I put them in, I'm gonna just dab a little bit onto my La Petite brush, and then I'm going to put some in the drawer onto the drawer slide. I'm also going to take my drawer and put some right down the middle, and doing that on both spots should allow my drawer to slide in and out nice and easy. Like so. And then I'm gonna grab my hardware from Hobby Lobby. So let me know what you guys think about the hardware down in the comments. This is something that's definitely unique and different for me than I usually do. But we're gonna go ahead and slide that right in. Wow, that looks good. I went into Hobby Lobby without even a swatch of this paint, and I was like, I think this will match the French linen. And I think that it really complements really well. So let's continue the process. We're gonna do 4 more drawers with the butter and the hardware. And We're golden. I honestly thought it was gonna be a little bit more of like a purpley gray. In this lighting, it's pretty much that grayish color, but beige gray between the two. I like it, and it's a nice neutral color, so I think that it will sell pretty fast in my market. So I hope you guys enjoyed this FFT Friday. I really had a lot of fun making over this dresser, and I hope you guys had a lot of fun and learned a lot by watching me make over this dresser. We will see you next week for FFT Friday, and then as always, be sure to head over to our channel, Furniture Flipping Teacher, and get subscribed over there to continue following along on our journey of flipping furniture. Follow along on the other side, the flip side of our journey. We've got a new channel, The Flip Side with Lauren and Neiman, so we would love for you to be a subscriber over there as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next week. See you on the flip side.